Hey everybody, Adam and Jordan here from Menta Watches. Welcome back to the channel. We are here for another edition of the best vintage watches to buy. In this edition, in this video, we will be discussing watches from $25,000 to $50,000, and then we'll go up from there on our last few videos. Without further ado, I will kick it off. My first choice is tried and true Rolex Daytona. The Daytona debuted in 1962. Fun fact, it was actually called the Le Mans in their catalog, and then eventually became the Daytona, with Daytona being written on the dial several years later. When we're talking about a Daytona in the 50K range, 4-digit vintage, we're really only looking at the 6239 and I guess some 6262s, but pump pusher examples with steel bezels. There are a lot of different variants out there. They are some of my favorite watches. I'm actually very much partial to steel bezel pump pushers. I know everybody loves the 6263s and I totally get it, but for me and my money, I love the 36mm case. They grew 1mm into the 6263 and 6265. I love the smaller pushers. I love the more traditional design. You find a nice panda dial. The price range is going to be, for a good example, anywhere from 40 to 50K. And I think there's just so much value in those watches. And also, fun fact, my very first real proper vintage watch, I traded Kirill, our good friend from Kirill from Lunar Oyster, a modern Panerai and a Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Bumblebee. Yes, I wore a Bumblebee. It was my favorite watch for the longest time, for a 6262 blue Daytona, so black dial with Daytona aged in blue. And as soon as I put it on, it was like fireworks went off and I went head over heels, deep into vintage. So yeah, that's my first pick. What do you got first on deck for us?
So actually, our minds think alike. My first pick is also a Daytona, but it's actually the successor to that one. Zenith Daytona, specifically in yellow gold. So 16528. You could definitely not get the first run R serials for under 50,000, but you could most certainly get a white dial or a black dial variant. We actually sold a couple very recently in really nice condition, probably top condition for around the 45, 50K mark.
Even less, I would say.
I think those are stunning watches, and that watch really brought the Daytona into, I would say, the new style of watchmaking. You know, obviously it has the, it's based off the famous Zenith Daytona movement, automatic, no longer manual winding. It really put, the Daytona into the forefront, and basically that's the watch that made the Daytona, in my opinion, what it is today.
Yeah, I think it was the
icon that it is today.
First, like, very commercial, like, in everybody's eyes Daytona. And it's great that you chose that, because I didn't actually even think of it, but you're right. It's the first automatic Daytona. It's an interesting backstory with Rolex contracting with Zenith to make their automatic movement, since they did not at the time have an in-house automatic movement. So their Caliber 4030 was a modified Zenith El Primero movement. That was the only brand they trusted to make a proper workhorse automatic chronograph. It's an absolutely iconic watch, and I think they're absolutely very collectible because of that Zenith history and that tie-in. And then when they transitioned to their in-house 4130 movements, they kind of lost a little bit of that charm.
So most certainly did.
It's a great pick, and I think where prices are right now, I think the last really nice black dial we had with an inverted 6 sold in like the mid-30s. So they've come to a price point, after COVID deflation, to a place where you could really pick them up for, good money.
So it's a good friend. Shout out to Adrian.
There you go. Shout out, Adrian. Okay, my next pick is a brand we've talked about on prior videos. It is a Universal Genève. This one is a 1960s Tri-Compax, reference 881101, specifically talking about /03 and 04. So I think the 03 is the Geddy Lee exotic dial, and the 04 is the teal dial. The white and black dials, the Clapton and Evil Clapton, are great, and some of them in excellent condition will cost you $25 or more. But you can also sometimes pick them up for $25 or less. With the Geddy Lee and the teal dial, you absolutely cannot. Those watches have flown in terms of pricing over the past decade, I would say. They are the most collectible of the 60s UG Tri-Compaxes. And I'm particularly partial. I know everybody loves that teal dial, and it is stunning. I am particularly partial to the Geddy Exotic because the top register is the same uniform color as the first finish, and you have the regular 3 registers in a different color. So it looks almost like a regular chronograph, and it has red outer track. So from a distance, it kind of looks like a Paul Newman. but the other Tri-Compaxes, the white, black, and teal, Clapton, Evil, Clapton, and teal, all uniform one color. So you kind of really see those 4 registers like sticking out. And I love the fact that the Getty has like 3 registers and then one kind of blending into the dial, looking like almost like a normal chronograph.
Yeah, no, those are stunning watches, and I really hope that UG brings them back through revitalization of the brand.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting with a pull router from the early pictures that we've seen. They did a really great job of keeping it true to the originals. So I have a lot of confidence going forward that hopefully they'll bring back the Tri-Compax similar to the original design.
Right.
What's your second pick?
So next on my list, I'm staying with the Rolex Icons, and it's not particularly one watch, but it's a type of watch. The stone dial Datejust and day dates, specifically Lapis, Onyx, and Tiger Eyes. I think those are probably the coolest day dates or Datejust you can buy for under 50,000, and none two are the same. You know, they're so unique.
That's the beautiful part about stone dials.
Each stone dial is different, obviously, because each piece of stone just looks different. And, you know, some shine more than others, some have more inclusions. They just have so much character, and they're so awesome to wear on wrist. They really shine in the light. They're showstop watches. Like, I personally love those watches, and I love when we get them in the shop.
Yeah, I think the one thing you need to be aware of, though, is always make sure that these watches have no cracks in the dial because they severely affect the value. So you really need to inspect them and make sure, specifically with day dates, they get cracked right above the date window at 12. So always be sure to inspect these very carefully, because it's a shame when you buy them and they look great in photos and you get one in and it has a little hairline or a crack. It, you know, kind of kills the mood.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next watch I have on my list, I've talked about a lot before. It is the Patek Philippe Aquanaut reference 5065A. So for stainless steel, it is their first jumbo Aquanaut, introduced, I believe, in 1998. Patek first launched the Aquanaut with the 5060, which was, I think, 35 millimeters. And then a year after that one launched, they came out with their jumbo version. The early versions have tritium dials. The later versions have luminova dials. So always look out for tritium dial if you like that yellow patina. But for me, they are the most wearable daily watch in this category you could ever find. They work well with everything. Iconic design.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and at 38 millimeters, they're just perfect.
And Patek actually still sells you the green straps for those. That's a
Yeah, whereas the more modern Aquanauts, forget it. You can't get them anymore. They discontinued them.
absolutely.
You could change these tropic straps and they have a variety of colors. It's just honestly such a fantastic watch. I love wearing it. When you can't decide what to throw on, you just throw one of those on and it's perfect.
I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, so what's next on your list? Wait a second. You're not Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest spot in today's video, Mr. Sasha Davidoff of the Davidoff Brothers. Let's get some picks from you. Give us 2 watches in the 25 to 50K that you absolutely love and recommend people to buy.
I am absolutely confused to be here and delighted to share my picks with you. I think first I will start with AP. So AP Star Wheel reference 25720. It comes in several configurations. Typical 90s AP in an atypical kind of configuration. So it has that kind of like step bezel case that you've seen across like several models, like including the perpetual calendar, their dual time, their time only. They had like a few, you know, variations. The Star Wheel kind of stands out because it has these transparent discs that have the hours on them, and it basically slides across and indicates the minutes as well. And it's called the Star Wheel because there's these big star wheels under every disc that basically turn the hours whenever it goes around. It came in yellow gold, rose gold, and platinum. My favorite being the guilloche finish because there's also an engraved bottom of the disc or bottom of the dial. And there is a tropical version of the platinum, which is well out of our budget.
Right.
But to start, you have the yellow gold, which is in the 20s. So at the start of our budget, I would say that a pink gold is in the 30s, and a platinum, maybe you could get like for 50.
Right,
So
right
at
around the
tail
top of
end.
the budget.
So
yeah.
that gives us kind of the range. Like within the range, you can have like, you know, yellow gold, rose gold, or platinum.
Yeah, it's a good pick that I didn't even think of, and it's an iconic design that AP actually just brought back in their code case, which I thought was one of the most stunning releases that they made.
With add-on Shireen behind us.
The Shireen dial, exactly. I wish they would make them smaller, but it still is an amazing, amazing watch. So absolutely a great pick that I bet Jordan didn't think of either. What do you got next? Let's get one more from you.
One more. I will go with a Breguet Tourbillon reference 3350. So there was the 3350, which was launched in 1989, and the 3357, which followed. From the front, you really can't tell the difference between a 3350, 3357. You have to turn them around. The earliest 3350s don't even have the reference on the top, so that's an indication that it is a 3350. And the reason that the 3350 is a little bit more sought after and carries a slight premium over the 3357 is that it's considered Roth era. So Daniel Roth, being a famous watchmaker, famously kind of carried Breguet in the 80s, you know, to these like high complicated wristwatches, including like perpetual calendar and the tourbillon and chronograph. So like there's a lot of things that are, now that Daniel Roth is being relaunched as a brand by LVMH, a lot of people kind of retrospectively look at his work, which includes most famously Breguet before he went out on his own in the early 90s.
And went out in the late 80s. Anyways,
so definitively launched his brand maybe in the early 90s, maybe left earlier.
probably right. Semantics.
But you know, this tourbillon is kind of like the pinnacle achievement of Daniel Roth, kind of bringing Breguet back to its roots, because Breguet is the inventor of the tourbillon. The founder of Breguet, Abraham Louis Breguet, invented the tourbillon. I mean, granted, it was 100 years prior. And I think that watch is not only iconic for Breguet as a brand, I think it's iconic for Daniel Roth as a watchmaker. And it's still, mind you, like the original retail price of these watches was like 100K plus.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And you're still able to buy one. Look, so let's say a 3350 will probably run you closer to like 40K.
Right.
I think we sold one at the antique show for around that. And especially if it's like a first series or an A series, and then a 3357, which is again, like visually identical from the front, will be around 30,
right,
let's say. So
tremendous value.
Yeah, I'm not including boxing papers. I'm not adjusting for condition. I'm just giving you kind of like an average.
Right.
And so we're like well within our parameters of the 25 to 50. We're like in the 30 to 40K range.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely fantastic pick.
Coin edge,
36
guilloche, hand guilloche dial, like the typical Breguet numerals, the Breguet like hands, the Breguet everything, the Breguet DNA.
Every time we get one in stock, I'm like, I just want to keep this watch for a while, and then somebody buys it so quickly, I'm like, God damn it! So I get to wear it for like a couple days before it's out the door, you know.
And if memory serves, I think it was actually the first model and exclusively model that only came with a sapphire case back.
There you go. All right, well, thank you so much for your 2 guest spot picks. Can you give Jordan's jacket back and get the hell out of here?
All right, I'm out of here.
What just happened?
And he's back.
Why do I have the taste of cigarettes in my mouth?
And cheap bourbon.
Oh,
Cheap
that
bourbon.
was strange. Okay.
All right, what's next on your list?
All right, so next on my list is kind of a newer watch. I believe it was introduced in 1988. It's from the CPCP collection.
Okay.
So the Collection Privée Cartier Paris. In particular, it's the Cartier Tortue.
Oh, cool.
Monitor pusher chronograph. They have stunning guilloche dials, stunning movements designed by F.P. Journe and Denny Flagouet. It was sort of a collaboration. In my opinion, a watch nerd's watch.
Yeah.
Stunning movement, stunning case, stunning, you know, the way the crystal fits on that case is absolutely gorgeous. I think that watch is a home run, and I love those watches. And we haven't had one since I actually started working here. So it's been 5 years probably since the last.
So it might be a little harder to find, but
they're very hard to find. You don't see them come up for sale often. But I absolutely love that watch. So one of my favorite watches of all time.
Cool. My last pick is one that is very tried and true to my heart, because if you guys know me at all, you know that I'm an absolute huge admirer and fanatic of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, the original versions. The 50 Fathoms debuted around 1954. There's some debate over whether it was the first dive watch with a rotating bezel. It probably was the Submariner, but anyways, who cares? It's an amazing, amazing watch, designed in collaboration with French divers who actually needed to use it, and then eventually contracted to various governments in their mil-spec version for military use. For me, there's honestly no other way to describe it as just like absolute joy when you put it on the wrist. The first time I bought one and I slapped it on, 41mm case with these long elongated lugs and this huge Bakelite bezel with like a small dial disc, it just pops. Like, it's just there's just, honestly, it's just like a sensation when you wear this watch. For me, it's just the epitome of cool. I throw it on a dinky NATO strap because a lot of them came on NATO straps or they came on Tropic strap. But you see a lot of original Barn Find watches on these like dinky, rinky NATO straps. Yeah. So I'll throw it on something similar. It's my favorite dive watch to wear. It's probably my favorite dive watch, period. Yeah. Mil specs. I think we have one actually with some provenance under 50K. Most of the times you might be a little bit outside the 50K range, but you can get a cool RI, which stands for Rotomatic Inca Block, just their generic version, either with the regular indices or the 369 dial. And you could even get one co-signed Aqualung. Aqualung was not a model number or a model name, I should say. It was actually a retailer of dive equipment back in the day. So when they were signed Aqualung, it was almost like a retailer stamp, like Tiffany, something like that, something similar. But you could get those all well within the 25 to 50K range. Obviously the ones that are in excellent condition because these were tool watches and used and dived with. So it's hard to find really great examples, but these original gilt or gloss style ones that are unpolished in perfect condition with not a lot of patina, you will probably be running closer to the 40, 50K range, but certainly can be found for under that. For me, like I said, there's just no better dive watch.
That design, they got it right the first time. Really, like, it's just perfect.
Not to mention also, it's very low production. They didn't make a lot of these. Blancpain was not a big brand at the time. It wasn't something that was commercially successful or viable. So they really didn't produce a lot. So there are a lot fewer out there. It's, I would say, for every 1,000 Submariner made, there may be 1 or 2 of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. It's just really, really a special watch.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more.
All right, and our last watch on the list, Jordan, what do we got?
The last watch on my list is the Patek 3800. You know, I've said it in previous videos, I say it again. If you're gonna get a Nautilus and you have smaller wrists, that's the one to have. At 37 millimeters, it fits perfectly. Can you get a J for under 50?
Might be tough.
Might be tough.
Maybe with like a white dial naked?
Yeah, no, but I'd go steel blue dial, the classic.
Classic.
You know, you can't go wrong with that. It's the iconic, you know, Gerald Genta design.
I was walking around the design district a couple days ago and I saw this like tall, much bigger than me, myself guy wearing a 3800. I actually couldn't tell if it was a 5800 or 3800 because I didn't get close enough to look. But either way, he was a big guy and it looked fantastic on him. And it was immediately recognizable. And I was like, so much props for not wearing the same Nautilus that everybody else has, you know, a 5711 or anyways. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up for our 10 watches to buy in the 25 to 50K range. We will see you on a future video where we go even higher than that. And we will at the end go even lower than that. And we'll do a video on $1,000 or less. I know there's a couple people in the comments that keep asking us to do it. And I promise you we will. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all the normal YouTube stuff. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Bad at this. He's so bad at this. Oh my God, it's so ridiculous how bad he is at his job.
No, he's good, but he's
Guy, remind me why I pay you?
because he's sexy. Look at his face.
I know. Oh.
Look at him. He's covered in the hat. You see the
dreams
smile is pearly white.
I know. I have dreams about him. Oh, are we ready? Like, I feel like every day we're just waiting for you to like be ready.